Te Anishinaabe, Ho. The Wendat headmen Ochâteauguin and Orani are wounded. In all the confusion, Champlain is also hit. He has just taken an arrow in the knee and a second one in the thigh. Champlain and the other wounded have to be carried away to a safe place. The attackers must fall back and wait for the reinforcements to arrive. But where are Étienne Brûlé and Jean d'Ast? Tired of waiting for them, on October 16th, Champlain and his allies undertake the return journey. 2 days later, Étienne and the reinforcements would finally arrive.
When compared to the battles of Lake Champlain and Sorel, this Battle of Syracuse is not only a monumental defeat, but a turning point in our history. We're far from the guerrilla skirmishes of the past, and the Iroquois will increasingly seek vengeance. By the beginning of the 1650s, the Wendats, decimated by European diseases, and their war with the Iroquois will find themselves greatly weakened. Later, the Algonquin will also be savagely attacked by the Iroquois and will be forced to leave the Ottawa River area. The Wendats will adopt a strategy of dispersal. A few hundred survivors will follow the Jesuit missionaries to Quebec, where they will build a new Wendake. And Samuel de Champlain, the great dreamer, in his bid to bring about peace through military means, will instead have fanned the flames of a war that will last nearly a century, up until the signing of the Great Peace of Montreal in 1701.
400 years after this conflict, how is our relationship with the Iroquois today? First of all, let's call the Iroquois by their real name, that is, the Haudenosaunee. Like 80% of Native people in Canada, many Haudenosaunee live among us off reserve. It's the case of Catherine Liboiron, a young woman in Kingston. By playing the role of one of her Haudenosaunee ancestors for the show L'Écho d'un Peuple, Catherine shared her Mohawk grandmother's culture. One of the voyageurs Christian Pilon's ancestors was an Onondaga emissary who signed the Great Peace of Montreal Treaty. And myself, since I have Wendat ancestors, I am of the Haudenosaunee culture. Surely I have hundreds of Iroquois cousins that I don't even know.
Many Haudenosaunee continue to live on their traditional lands around Lake Ontario, which for a long time was commonly called the Lake of the Iroquois. Franco-Ontarians in the London, Parry Sound, Hamilton, Kingston, and Cornwall areas are fortunate to be able to rub shoulders with the Haudenosaunee living in the reserves near them. Most of these natives are part of the Six Nations Iroquois Confederacy. However, since many of the Haudenosaunee were forced to assimilate and become English-speaking, we aren't as close to them as we are to the Anishinaabe, who, in many cases, have francophone relatives.
It is true that many Haudenosaunee still look upon mainstream society with a sense of resistance and mistrust, and with good reason. On top of the old conflicts in which Champlain and the French took part during nearly 100 years, the Canadian government during British rule took possession of their lands. And thousands of their Haudenosaunee grandparents, when they were children, were sent to live in horrible Indian residential schools, like the Mohawk Institute in Brantford. Much like Francophones living in a minority context, the Haudenosaunee have long felt that they must fight to defend their rights. caught between two worlds for 400 years, living on the border and torn between the laws of two countries, as well as being culturally divided within their own community, the Haudenosaunee strength and determination in shaping their destiny should be recognized. The two rows that appear on the Goswenta Wampum should be a source of inspiration for us all. When traveling on a river, we can paddle side by side and each follow our own road without getting in the other's way. This wampum is a symbol of everlasting friendship and peace.
I hope with all my heart that those of the upcoming generation, like myself, will take part more often in Haudenosaunee and Six Nations events like powwows. Let's take the opportunity to explore the cultural richness of our neighbors, and let us learn to build our future together and make it just as promising as this fabulous friendship song that resonates within us. My grandpa Bernard explained to me that because Samuel de Champlain was unable to walk because of his injuries, the Hurons carried him in a basket.
The pain which I suffered in consequence of the wound in my knee was nothing in comparison with that which I endured while I was carried, bound and pinioned on the back of one of our savages. As soon as I could sustain myself, I got out of this prison.
But the pain Champlain endures does not hurt as much as the humiliation he feels. He has lost a considerable amount of both the confidence and the respect of his Wendat and Anishinaabe allies. His authority as the great captain of the French has taken quite a beating. When the group retrieves its canoes from their hiding place on the shore of Lake Ontario, Champlain asks his allies to bring him back to Quebec. They refuse, and he will have no choice but to follow the Hurons and spend the winter with them.
This greatly annoyed me, inasmuch as they had promised to conduct me to our settlement. Moreover, I was poorly prepared for spending the winter with them. After some days, I perceived that their plan was to keep me and my companions, that I might listen to what took place in their councils and assemblies.
November comes, and the expedition is still on its return trip to Huronia. The Hurons and the Algonquins set up a temporary hunting camp to do what they do every year, our traditional deer hunt. For a few weeks, they will hunt in the area that is known today as the Bay of Quinte and the city of Trenton. Champlain takes part in this hunt, during which he observes the natives' ingenious hunting technique. The hunters move forward in a long line.
Each had 2 sticks, which they struck together. They went into the woods to a small forest of firs. The deer, hearing this noise, flee before them, until they reach the enclosure into which the savages force them to go. Then they gradually unite on approaching the bay and opening of their triangle. Savages hotly pursue them with bow and arrow in hand, ready to let fly.
Giving in to his insatiable curiosity, Champlain, in pursuit of a bird that reminds him of those he observed in the West Indies, leaves the group and ventures into the woods.
It had a beak like that of a parrot and was the size of a hen. It was entirely yellow, except the head, which was red, and the wings, which were blue.
In his pursuit of this bird as it flies from one tree to the next, Champlain becomes utterly lost. For 3 days, he cries out for help while becoming increasingly tired, cold, and hungry.
I found myself lost in the woods, without being able to recognize my position. I began to consider what I should do and to pray God to give me the will and courage to sustain patiently my misfortune if I should be obliged to remain abandoned in this forest.
It's at this moment that Champlain, alone and in danger, must have understood even more the importance of listening to the teachings of the first inhabitants of these lands, the importance of listening to nature. Consider this: if Champlain, the father of Nouvelle-France, abandoned in this Ontario forest, had died, perhaps today there wouldn't be any French speakers in North America. Champlain decided to listen to nature. To find his way back to the group's hunting camp, he started following a small river.
I walked at my leisure along the border of the river until I arrived to the great pleasure not only of myself but of them, who were still searching for me, but had about given up all hopes of seeing me again.
Champlain's native friends never understood how this misfortune could have occurred. How could their guest have become lost and even run out of food in the forest?
I think that it's Mother Earth who guided him, no doubt about it. No matter our different personal beliefs, all the solutions to our problems can be found in the force of nature. 400 years later, as Dominique Rankin and Algonquin tells us with a smile, the forest is our grocery store, our pharmacy, and even a 4-star hotel.
The deer hunt lasted 38 days. The land is now cloaked in white. Traveling over the frozen lakes and rivers has made the journey easier for the troops that have made it back to Huronia just before Christmas. The women and children are happy to be reunited with their loved ones. Some, however, learn that they have lost a father, a brother, a son. Chief Darontal welcomes Champlain like a brother into his longhouse in Cayagé to spend the winter. Darontal offers him an abundance of foodstuffs, care for his aches and pains, festivities to seal their friendship, and everything needed to survive the winter. From warm furs and herbal teas full of vitamins to snowshoes. Being the artist, scientist, and anthropologist that he is, Samuel decides to take full advantage of this opportunity to explore this new world where the people share absolutely everything, a trait that sets them very much apart from Europeans. Could this value of cooperation become the essence of the new France he dreams of? 4 centuries later, Franco-Ontarian youth recognized the importance of this principle when they created the Franco-Ontarian Games based on a cooperative approach.
Champlain can finally rest. He closes his eyes. His mind is flooded by images. Is he in the middle of a dream, or is he daydreaming instead? Here in the New World, he is oceans away from the pyramidal society of Europe, where those in power at the top can crush the others below them. Here there are no rich and no poor. Children enjoy a lot of freedom, and their parents don't physically punish them. Everybody shows their love for all the children, and the whole village raises them, just like in an African village. Here, people with handicaps are respected, as they are seen as being close to the Great Spirit. The grandmothers honor homosexual people, known as the two-spirited, because they carry within them both the female and the male spirit. They recognize them before the age of 3. Women share power with the men, and they have important and distinct responsibilities. The young women choose their lovers. The grandmothers support them in their choices, so that when they decide to marry, they'll be happy. Champlain sees the image of Hélène. His young bride didn't have anything to say about their marriage. Finally, here the elders are not only respected but always consulted as wise ones who can offer guidance when important decisions have to be made. Native people live by the power of the circle. In a circle, everyone is equal, everyone has the right to the talking stick, and everybody gains from it.
The power of the cooperative circle will play an inspirational role in the success of the French-Canadian pioneers. Over the next 400 years, they will organize church and barn-building bees, just like the Wendakes did to build their longhouses. They will establish farming cooperatives and work together to bring in their corn or wheat harvests. They will also create credit unions, where the profits will be used to improve the community circle.
On January 5th, 1616, Champlain meets up again with Father Le Caron in Caragua. Oddly enough, nobody has received word of Étienne Brûlé.
After resting some days, I determined to go and to see in winter the people whom the war had not permitted me to see in the summer.
They set out to the southwest and travel from village to village to offer their friendship as well as gifts that include warm fabrics, iron tools, as well as a new god.
Le Caron, for his part, is happy to take in some new scenery. Up until now, his mission to convert the Wendats to Christianity has been a failure. The Wendat are curious about the French god, but they already have their own beliefs that they follow to live in harmony with nature. Like all First Nations people, the Wendat worship the Okies. In other words, the spirits that exist in every living thing: animals, plants, fish, trees, lakes and rivers, and the heavenly bodies like the moon. These Okies are often embodied by shamans, who are consulted when important decision must be made, or somebody seeks a cure to an illness. Each individual also has direct access to the spirits, to the ancestors, and to the great Manitou.
No doubt, Etienne described all this to Champlain as they paddled up the Kitchissippi en route to the land of the Huron. For the Anishinaabe and the Wendats, each day is filled with rituals, prayers, and offerings. For instance, they thank the fish that they have just caught for offering its life so that they will not die of hunger. They honor the life sacrificed by the moose or the deer that they've just hunted by making sure every part of its body is used. Its fur for clothing, so nobody dies of the cold. Its meat to feed them and share with the entire village. Its guts to make snowshoes, and its bones to make hooks, tools, and even games.
Champlain has often seen his guides place offerings of tobacco in the river or at the foot of a tree. The First Nations people also believe in the messages contained in their dreams. They faithfully respect the visions that come to them in their dreams, whether they occur at night or during the day.
My Anishinaabe ancestors would make dream catchers, and we still make them today. My Kukumanahe taught me that the dream catcher was created by an elder after he had a vision showing him the way to chase away bad dreams. In his dream, the elder had seen bad dreams being caught in a web spun by a spider in a hoop. The good dreams would get through the web and then reach us by sliding on the feathers. That's why, even to this day, many people hang them over their beds.
While spending time among the Wendats during the winter, Joseph Le Caron and his fellow Frenchmen must have been fascinated by all these beliefs and teachings. For the natives, everything has a reason, and one must remain responsive to the Okies, the spirits in nature, and the messages of the earth. The natives have always understood that we must live in harmony with the cycle of nature. It is full of magic and secrets. But the thing that will impress Samuel de Champlain the most is the Feast of the Dead, a ritual that lasts 10 days. The dead are placed atop high platforms. Every 12 years or so, when the time has come for a Huron village to move, the whole family, young and old, clean the body of the departed one while thinking of them. The deceased bones are wrapped in a new beaver robe. Every family member dances, sings, and takes their turn at carrying the affectionately prepared bundle of bones on their back. And then all the departed are buried together in a common grave. Mother Earth welcomes them so that they may travel the path to the Creator together.
Now, by means of these ceremonies, those of the village renew their friendship to one another, saying that the bones of their relatives and friends are to be all put together. So ought they also, during their life, to be united in one friendship and harmony. Some of them believe in the immortality of the soul.
After Le Caron, many other priests will come and establish missions to evangelize the natives, like the Jesuit, Jean de Brébeuf, and the great mission of Sainte Marie among the Hurons. All of these priests will be amazed to see the Wendats exhibit such a powerful outpouring of love during their Feast of the Dead ritual. It would prove an important lesson for the zealous missionaries who thought they were coming here to save the souls of these poor savages. But Jean de Brébeuf had a more open mind. While at Sainte Marie, he had a chapel constructed with features adapted to the Wendat culture. He learned to speak their language and even wrote a Christmas carol in Wendat, Jesus Ahatonia, the Huron Christmas.
And so it is that at the beginning of this winter of 1616, Champlain and Joseph Le Caron visit so many different First Nations in so many different areas that their names became just as entangled as the thongs on their snowshoes. They visited 7 Sionon-Tateronon villages. These people are the Pétuns, or Tobacco Nation, that live on the shores of Nottawasaga Bay, in the area stretching from Collingwood to Owen Sound.
The people from all quarters flocked in order to see us, showing many manifestations of friendship. After visiting these people, we went to a nation of savages whom we named Cheveux Relevés. They were very happy to see us again, and we entered into friendship with them.
These Cheveux Relevés, or literally high-haired people, are the same Ottawas that Champlain had met at the mouth of the French River in July. Their name in French, Outaouais, is pronounced Ottawa, and they spend the winter just to the west of the Pétun villages.
They are hunters who go in troops to various regions and countries where they traffic with other nations.
The Pétun chief lights the pipe. The pipe is passed round to purify the mouth before speaking. When coming to a decision, thought must be given to the teachings received from the 7 generations before us and to the future of the 7 generations that will follow us. The High Hairs asked Champlain to help them in their war against their enemies, the Assistagirons, or People of Fire, also known as the Mascouten. This nation lives west of the Detroit River in the state of Michigan. Champlain explains to them that he doesn't have the resources to help them. Everywhere he goes, Champlain notes that the natives grow abundant harvest of corn that he describes in his journal as Indian wheat or Turkish wheat. For a long time, it was thought that corn or maize came from that side of the world when in fact it originated here in the Americas, south of the Great Turtle.
During his visits, Champlain has learned of the existence of a mysterious land to the west where there are white people like the French. As well, Champlain hears more and more about a nation that intrigues him.
There is another savage nation that produces a large amount of tobacco. They're at peace and remain neutral. This neutral nation, which is powerful, holds a considerable country.
Given the name the Neutrals by Champlain, the Atiwandaronks are also Haudenosaunee. They remained peaceful and avoided the conflicts between the other native nations. The Neutrals lived in the Niagara and Grand River areas. On its way to Lake Erie, the Grand passes through the present-day communities of Kitchener, Brantford, and Haldimand.
I was very desirous of visiting this nation. There is a cordial understanding towards both of these nations, and they do not venture to engage in any dispute or quarrel.
Will Champlain the Dreamer at last find among this peaceful nation a people with whom he will be able to build his ideal new world? Will the Ottawas and the Pétuns accept to bring Champlain to these Atiwandaronks? Will the explorer be able to travel deep into the land of the Neutrals without once again being attacked by the Iroquois?
Kichimigwech, Kichisipi Anishinaabe, Ho.
L'Acadie à la mer Vermeille, du fleuve géant à la mer du Nord, au pays d'en haut, plein de merveilles. Je crois en toi, on nous plus fort.
Dans 400 ans, ce pays, toi le rêveur, fus accueilli, nourri, guidé par des peuples fiers,
montant ensemble la grande rivière.
M'accroche à ton grand rêve, pagayons, jusqu'au bout de la terre, dessinons ce nouveau monde, cette Nouvelle-France, comportons-nous avec puissance. vivons. Un jardin d'idéaux, un monde plus beau, le rideau se lève sur un monde